Hello, and welcome to Mystic Dog Mama, the podcast for soul led dog mamas, where you'll discover how to best nourish your dog and yourself, mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Dr. Alexia Meller, and in this special episode for Stress Awareness Month, we're diving deep into the energetics of calm, clarity, and connection. I'm joined by the radiant Liz Clifton, a calm leadership coach, mentor, and animal Reiki practitioner. Through her powerful story, including her journey with a shutdown Romanian rescue dog and her own healing after a dysfunctional relationship, Liz offers a deeply compassionate and practical path back to inner calm. Together, we explore what calm leadership truly is and how your dog is already modeling it for you. Simple, soulful techniques to return to and stay in a state of calm. The energetic connection between you and your dog and how stress is mirrored. How to reclaim your voice in perimenopause and beyond. Redefining purpose in a way that feels nourishing because it gets to be simple. From have to get to, a shift in language that shifts everything. And a powerful perspective shifting exercise to ground and empower you in difficult moments. Whether you're feeling the weight of stress or simply seeking a deeper connection with your dog and yourself, this conversation will gently guide you home to your body, to your breath, and to your own calm frequency. Tune in, breathe deep, and remember, calm isn't something you chase, it's something you return to. And your dog, they've been showing you how all along. On that note, let's go. Hi, Liz. Thank you so much for joining me today on Mystic Dog Mama. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super grateful and excited to be here.
I'm excited too. And before we started recording, I was saying that I'm eager to tap into your wisdom and your energy. And I know that people are going to really benefit from this discussion of calm, particularly as this will be airing in April, and April is Stress Awareness Month. And we know at a kind of greater level that it's important to look at these kinds of things. But I think so often putting stress management, calm into practice can be a challenge. And so I'm excited to dive into how we can actually take ownership of that in our lives and empower ourselves with calm and presence. So this is going to be a good chat.
Woo!
I wondered if you could maybe start off by telling listeners a little bit about how you got into this whole focus on calm. What has your journey been?
Oh, amazing. Thank you. So I've always been quite a calm person. And I've always naturally connected with animals. They'd always move into my space, even if we're visiting, like an animal park or a farm, anything like that. So I think that calm energy space is where I naturally sit. And I've also really always connected in with other people's energy. So I'd notice, instantly if people were a little bit off, or, even an animal was, not quite their usual self. And I think that's that kind of calm beginning space where we often all begin, as babies. We're in that fresh, clear, calm space. And then different things kind of happen and we get kind of sucked into the energy of other things. But to then be able to just come back to that beginning, calm space is beautiful. But I had my own challenges as well. So believe me, I've had my moments where calmness was not there, stress is up here. And then I just it was really in rescuing our first Romanian street dog that I really came back to that space of calm. And then everything else has rippled out from there.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience with your Romanian rescue? Because I know a lot of people who listen actually they choose to go that route of rescuing these dogs and often end up in a challenging situation that they weren't expecting. And I imagine you probably had a similar experience.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So the way that I came across her was I one morning I woke up and I just had this feeling to search for an overlooked dog that would be suitable for us as a family. And at the time we had our 2-year-old daughter. So, of course, a lot of rescues won't let you take, a rescue dog if the kid is under 5. Even these days, like under 10, I've seen, which, I can understand it completely for rescues because you don't know the history. Um, but so there she was, this beautiful, and she looked like tiny little puppy being held by a child. And I was like, oh, this has got potential. So I fill out the little thing. And literally, like within minutes, I had a phone call back from the rescue. And they were like, oh my gosh, the woman is in tears because no one had inquired about her. And she thought it was because she was a black dog.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my gosh, like color to me means nothing, but I understand in the peculiarities of the world that a black dog was not as desirable to some people. So, she was really, really like excited that we'd inquired about her. But they were really worried about her and they've been considering putting her to sleep because she wasn't actually interacting with anyone. She was only creeping out of her kennel at night in the dark to eat her food, have a little bit of drink, and just do her business. So that was it. That was her tiny little bit of outside time was then. So at this point, I'm invested. I'm like, yep, we're going to come and get her. You're not putting her down. Like, we're here. We'll rescue her. We'll bring her back. A very quick conversation with my lovely husband, and he was as invested as me. So a couple of days later, over like a bank holiday weekend, we drove hundreds and hundreds of miles to go and fetch her and bring her back. Now, it took them like nearly an hour to get her into the crate for us to actually bring her home because she was so petrified of people. And at this point, we began to think, okay, what have we actually let ourselves in for?
Yeah.
How are we going to be able to support her? How can we give her a better quality of life than what she already had? Because that was our like main priority. How can we give her the chance to be a dog? How can we give her the chance to actually live, and enjoy herself? And as we very gently carried the crate, over the fence, into the backyard, into the kitchen, which is where we're going to set up her like little cozy den space. We were like, okay, how is this going to work? how can we help this beautiful little soul who is so scared? And I think, like you said, so many people have that initial, they're like, oh my gosh, the dog is so lovely, I want to rescue them, I want to do that great thing. And then the dog is there in your space and you're like, this is not a regular dog. This is not the dog that we've like grown up with in a book or in the movies. This is a very, very different creature. And there's so much, sort of innate natural wildness there. Such a severe lack of trust for her and a severe lack of even self-confidence for her. She was absolutely silent. She didn't make a peep. And it was months and months before she finally made she was howling at the moon. So that was the first time we heard her voice.
I love that.
That was so gorgeous. And like that was months and months down the line. And the way we got her to that point was just giving her lots of space. Everything was her choice, whether she came out of her like little den space when we were there or not, everything was down to her. When she chose to eat or drink, everything, like it was all there, she got to pick. And the really amazing thing was that she began to eat and drink when we turned the tap on, because her den was in one section of the kitchen and it was like behind, like an island in the center. So she was nicely kind of hidden and tucked out if she wanted to be. And the sink was just over like the other side. This is like diagonal, like the furthest point we could be in the kitchen. And we spent so much time in that kitchen, just completely away from her, but present with her, letting her know she was safe. And so she started to eat and drink when we turned the tap on to wash the dishes. And like, that was the most amazing thing. It's like the Pavlov dog thing, but completely accidental. And it was purely that she then knew we were going to be in there for long enough for her to comfortably eat and drink and do the whole, of her sitting with us there. And that was like the first point of trust that we really noticed. She's like, okay, my family is here. Now I can safely eat and drink. And we were like, oh my goodness, like floods of tears. She's accepting us. And as each of us in turn in the family, we had that experience with her. We were like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you demonstrated the patience with these dogs because I think we often overlook the need for that and actually we underestimate the amount of time that it takes. We sort of expect the dog to fit into our life, within like a couple of weeks sort of thing. And that's just it's not the case for really any dog, but especially a dog that has come from trauma or dogs that are coming from other environments. Many of the Romanian rescues aren't even used to being in a home. There's all of these new things. And I think there's this invitation that you were just sort of describing of being being present and being a witness to sort of this unfolding and this expansion of this being, but in turn, it does it for you too.
Yes, like 1,000,000%, 1,000,000%. And often when I speak about that journey with her, I say we rehabilitated each other. I personally just stepped out of a 15-year really dysfunctional relationship where I just completely hidden myself. I'd stopped using my voice. I'd stopped thinking of myself like at all. I hadn't even looked at myself in a mirror for like years and years. And everything I did, I was just living through my kids, for my kids. So everything was for them. And at that space, as I was taking that time for her, gently allowing her to build up her self confidence, her own like calm leadership, her trust in herself, but then also in us, I was doing exactly the same for me, which then rippled out into our family. And it was the most amazing, like healing process for us all together. And like, that's why I saw you.
Mm.
And that's why, within those couple of minutes, that's why the phone call came through because we were meant to be there together. And every step of her journey since then, it's like matched mine. And like now we moved and we've got like we built her a private yard and she has her own like space outside and then she can choose to join in with the other dogs and with us like as she wants. It's all still her choice. And she is bounding around in that yard like a little bunny rabbit. It's so
Oh.
cute.
Oh, I love that so much, Liz. I wonder, because you just mentioned that she was able to develop her own calm leadership. Can you
Mm.
describe a bit what you mean by calm leadership and how we can enact that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first step for me is being really connected in with your own energy. And dogs are amazing because they're naturally in that energetic, in that like present moment space. They're always there. That's where they exist. So for her, I would argue perhaps it was a little bit easier because she already had that natural instinct to be in that space. But initially, where she was her like thresholds of stress was so highly stacked that you can't be in connection with that calm because you're all the time like up here in that like survival space. And I think the way that society works for many of us at the moment, we're up in that high stress space. So it's the beginning is just connecting in with yourself, like knowing how you're feeling, being able to pause for a second and just check in. How do I feel? And for the dogs, it's the same. It's giving them that opportunity to be free from that old stack stress, to be able to go, oh, this is how I'm feeling. And from that calm space, you then begin to choose. And then you're choosing for you. And then that's sort of shining a light for other people. And that's the calm leadership. So it's calm connected with you. And then it's being able to kind of shine that beacon of calm and share that lovely calm energy, which again, our dogs do so beautifully for us naturally. If you ever have that moment, you wake up and you're feeling a bit off, and you may not have even noticed you're feeling a bit off yet. Um, but they'll come to you and they'll give you that little bit of extra attention. And you're like, oh, sometimes, oh, I wonder what's wrong with them. I wonder what's up. And they're like, oh, it's me. I needed their support. They've come and showed me.
I think that's often the case. It's so true. It's so true. My friend and colleague Stacy Redfree and I joke all the time about when our dogs are exhibiting particular behaviors that it used to be, what do I need to do to help them, like to, in a sense, to fix that behavior, right? And in reality, now we're like, what's going on? It's an opportunity. Like, what's going on with me? What are they telling me and showing me? And it's such a gift if you choose to take it as that and you choose to become curious. It's such a lovely gift that they're offering us of like, okay, where am I? Because to your point, we're not even necessarily aware. We wake up, like you were saying, it's sort of the societal norm that we live in these high cortisol levels, right? And that in sort of like normal 3D society, that's even really celebrated. The busier you are, the more productive you are, all of that kind of stuff. Like that's where you get, yeah, it's like I know it's awful. You do feel like you have to like cleanse yourself from all this. But so it can be hard when we're told on one level that even if you personally don't buy into this, like I don't buy into that, but we're still taking on elements of the collective unconsciously. So how we kind of navigate dealing with the larger social expectations and finding that sense of calm. I wonder if you could talk about a little bit of your experience with that and how do people actually maintain calm? Because I think that's something that comes up a lot of like I might be able to calm myself for a minute, but then like the phone rings or there's a bit unexpected bill coming in or the dog's going ballistic at the doorbell or whatever. How do we actually maintain that sense of calm?
Amazing question. Amazing question. So for me, the first thing is to use some really, really super simple, like 3-second calming techniques. So just to bring you back into that connection with yourself. So one of them would be like a 3-second breathing practice. So you just breathe in for the count of 1 and breathe out for the count of 2. Amazing. And that gives you a pause. And within that little 3-second, and obviously you can repeat that 3-second practice as long as you like to get back into a calmer space. And it's not always super calm, it's just calm enough to do that next step, whatever that next step may be. Um, and the other fun thing about it is where you've got the longer out breath, it's naturally helping moving you back into that calm space. So that's supporting you to lower the cortisol, supporting you to get your parasympathetic nerve like engaged and helping you out. Because naturally, that is where we want to be. But again, as you said, society is like ramping it up here. And we're like, actually, no, let's just take a pause. And again, that pause is really handy for those trigger moments, like the phone goes, there's someone at the door, the dog starts kicking off. It again gives you that second to just pause and say, right, come back to me. And this is where I am. And like 99% of the time, we can control our breathing. So again, it brings it back into what we can control rather than all those exterior things that maybe we can't. The other like super 3-second quick thing is just to ask yourself, how do I feel? And that again is just bringing you back into that kind of conscious awareness, but also like physical, spiritual, emotional, like mental awareness as well. Because that feeling, it might be a physical feeling, it can be like a color, it can be a picture, a sound, like whatever it is always perfect for you in that second. And again, it's just coming back. And then when you're aware, sometimes just acknowledging how you're feeling, what your state, what your way of being, what your choice of way of being even is in that moment, it can be enough to help you to shift it because it just needed you to know. Do you know what? Yeah, I'm a bit frustrated that the dog just kicked off, but now I'm aware of it. I can choose and I can continue to carry on in a more calm space. Or I can go, okay, that's a bit of a deeper frustration. What can I do to help shift it? How can I, let it go? And it could be like simple as just like brushing off the energy, like I was just doing then. Or it could be, shaking your body in like a gentle way. Listen to a favorite piece of music to help you move into that calm space and just process through those emotions. But whatever you're choosing, it's giving you back that choice.
Mhm.
The same as we did with Zara as we were supporting her, just giving yourself back the choice. Yeah.
That's so helpful because it's a reminder too, without judgment, that we are choosing to feel when we become aware of it. It's that if we choose, if it's continuing, that's a choice. That's a conscious choice. And recognizing that there is a payoff for everything. So even if we choose to remain in this state of frustration, then it's an opportunity to become curious about what is this serving me? Because it is, if you're choosing it, it's serving on some level. And it could just be that it's a familiar pattern, right? But it's still serving something. But I think there were two things with what you said that I feel are so important for people to hear. And one, that it is the choice. So that's an empowering thing. Like you said, if everything around us is chaos, we have that's where our point of power really lies. And also that as we are making those choices, and we're making changes, we're facilitating changes for ourselves, and we're facilitating it for, that's how we change our environment, right? Like,
Mhm.
that's to me sort of like what manifestation culture really is. Like the way that you change the way that you are seen, you're changing the narrative that you are playing about the things around you, and then everything does start to shift as a result of that.
And it really does. And you can do like a little practice. You could even just do like silently without letting anyone around you know, but try that simple breathing practice. Just breathe in for the count of one, breathe out for the count of two. Notice yourself calm, and then just observe who's around you and notice how it starts to help them calm too. And like animals, especially dogs, are so beautiful at reflecting that back to us. So if they are kicking off, just practice that. Just spend a few moments in for one, out for two, in for one, out for two, and notice how their energy shifts. It's truly amazing. And you
Hmm.
then begin to realize actually how powerful you are and how easy it is to shift if you move yourself into that calm space, into that calm leadership space. You're truly connected, you're noticing yourself, you're aware of yourself. You can then begin to look outwards and notice, and then just see how that behavior, how your different energy is really rippling out to everyone around you. And like it's truly amazing. You are super powerful.
It's true. No, I love that you're saying that. And also, I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I think a lot of us as women, I'm going to generalize a little bit, but I do think that there's some truth to this, that we historically have been silenced in many ways. And as a result of that, I think we've become really disconnected from even how we feel. So it's amazing to me that the times that I have not known, if you were to ask me, like, what do you feel? That it wouldn't be just an immediate knowing. I'd actually have to be like, oh, well, I don't know. How do I actually feel? Am I allowed to feel something?
Mhm.
Or judging what it is that I'm feeling. Like I feel this way, but I'm not going to tell you I feel this way because I have some shame, all of that kind of stuff. And I know everybody does experience that, but I want to talk about the kind of people who identify as women perspective on this because of the kind of wider historical and social implications that it's had on whether or not we use our voices. And I think it's so lovely that you're speaking about how not only when we step into our own power of just even recognizing that, how it amplifies our power, becoming aware, but also how our dogs are so lovingly showing us where we might need to step into our power a little bit more. And I wonder if, like, what are your thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts too, as we so I said that so many of our listeners are in that kind of perimenopause era. You know, that this window of stepping into the crone phase, right? And where it's often talked about that as our hormonal levels shift, the veil lifts, and we're no longer even chemically predisposed to do the people pleasing thing that we were when we were younger, right? And so there is this unique opportunity to actually step into like, oh my gosh, I feel like this, and I'm actually going to own that I feel like this, and I'm going to tell you that I feel like this, and like, oh my gosh, what does that feel like? There is something about this kind of era, and I just wonder what your reflections might be on particularly the gifts and the wisdom of this type of era with the work that you're doing and stepping into our power. I know it's a lot in one kind of question, but I just wanted to kind of frame like what kind of advice or what kind of reflections and personal experience do you have about that and how can people sort of use this period of their lives to really step into more of their power?
Ooh, thank you. And probably that all underpins like the mission that I'm on, like everything, just supporting people to reconnect to themselves, to be calm, confident, and then connect that out to everybody else, and really embrace the power that you have and the unique gift that you have. Because for me, I believe we're all here for a specific purpose, whatever that purpose may be. So, really understanding yourself and listening to yourself enables you to then empower others around you. And it can be of any species, everything, everyone, every being is included. And just kind of tapping back into where you began the question, looking back historically, women were powerful. We were the powerful people. We were the creative people. We were the inspirational and motivational people. And then that all got hampered down because we were too strong in those old historic spaces. They saw us as too powerful and too connected because we gave birth to the children, but we also were giving birth to so many new ideas, new ways of being, and they didn't want that. But very much, I feel that we are now like in this new kind of this whole century, I believe, and this next, completion of the 1,000 years, I think is going to continue to grow and grow into female power, into coming back into that calm connection because it's been so male orientated and cold and kind of divisively like splitting everybody out into sections. So you're here and here and here and here. And that isn't how we naturally work as a species. It's not how any species naturally work. They're all together because that's how your species will continue to flow and grow and thrive. And so taking each of us individually, especially as we're moving into that like perimenopause and menopause space, it does give you that really beautiful, like natural, right from the inside out opportunity to go, okay, who am I? How do I feel? What do I want to do? What gives me joy each and every day? Because whatever gives you joy, so long as it's not like a masking of an old trauma, so it's a joy that's actually just hampering down who you are and what you're really feeling, there's a proper true joy, then that's what you get to do, whatever that is. And there's space for everyone. And if you imagine like a world where everybody is doing what completely fulfills them, what gives them joy each and every day, imagine what an amazing space that would be to be in. It would be calm, it would be connected, it would be inspiring, it would be loving, it would be supportive. Everyone would be respected and being respectful of everyone else for themselves exactly as they were in each and every moment. And we get to like step into that. We each get to bring whatever our collective knowledge and wisdom and experiences are to support other people to do the same, to find their voices. For me, I'd hidden my voice from myself for that 15 years. And as I look back at it now, I can see like, yes, there were little moments where I would listen to myself, but then I go, oh, no, 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 but that doesn't fit here. Because in this little box, as the wife in this specific relationship, I have no space for those feelings. I have no space for those thoughts. I have no space, for those wishes and desires and like passion. That has to go. Sorry. But we get to reconnect and listen to ourselves and also pause. So my cough is making me pause. So I get to listen to that too.
Exactly. It's a lesson for you as well, right? No, I agree. I agree. But I think it's really interesting. And thank you for sharing that you also went through your own experience of this. I wondered off of the back, this is a question that comes up for me quite a bit, not just within the podcast, but like sort of life generally when people start having this level of conversation. And it's the question of like, what is my purpose? How do I find my purpose? What does that look like? Because I think oftentimes we tend to tie that to a job. We think like it like purpose equals a job title, a job role kind of thing. And it can feel overwhelming. And if you've not found what you feel is your purpose, it can add to the shame spiral, right? The failure spiral of, well, gosh, I'm whatever age and I still haven't figured this out kind of thing. And I wondered, either from your personal experience or from that of working with various clients and just sort of life generally, do you have any guidance or suggestions for people who may be struggling with identifying what purpose looks and feels like? And when you are in a situation like you were describing where in your former relationship where you felt like you couldn't voice who you were and share that. Did you find anything helpful to get you out of that? Was there something that helped support you to kind of step into who you truly are?
Amazing. Your questions are so good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And yeah, so beginning with finding a purpose, I would just begin with joy. What do you enjoy? And many times, historically, people forget what they enjoy. And they're like, well, what do you enjoy doing? What actually really makes you happy? And people are like, well, getting my job done, getting a promotion, getting a gift. I'm like, okay, these are all great things. But inside, what really, really gives you joy? And they're at like a blank. They're like, I don't know. So the first place I say is like, think back to when you were a kid. What really like filled you up? What did you love doing as a child? And for most people, there's something there. And maybe it's, running through a field. Maybe it's like skipping. Maybe it's sitting on a swing. Maybe it's like pretending that you're flying. And it tends to bring in like often physical or sound, sometimes taste, or your imagination. And then you can start to like, well, how can you fit that into something now that you could do? Can you go sit on a swing? I still love going on the swing. I still love running and pretending I'm flying. Like all these things I still love, like painting, coloring, being creative, gardening. Like I love all those same things as I did as a kid because you know what? I'm the same person. Physically, yes, I have grown a little older. But inside I'm the same person. So it's connecting back into you. And I think if it's something that you find difficult, like find support, find a group of people that are doing it. Find an individual that can support you. Find a group that you can go sing together with, and lean on the support because it is there. And especially within this kind of stage of life, like perimenopause kind of space, especially, I think we're talking about it now. We're saying, oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, I have occasionally those sleepless nights. I have those moments. And I have, those inner conflict moments. Like we're all in that space together. And I think, especially like in this beautiful audience space here, like lean in on the audience, lean in on the people that are here in this space. Ask your questions to other people that are listening, ask your questions to other people that in whatever spaces you're in, but always trust yourself. And that then leads me to how I kind of got into mine, really, was from that initial question that I had, that led to me then having the confidence and choice to step out of the 15-year relationship. Was I was working three jobs at the time, and this was in my nighttime job at the supermarket. And I was finishing early hours of the morning, going home, breastfeeding my nearly 2 year old daughter to sleep. And I was just doing it. So I look back and I'm like, wow, we really can adapt and flex to anything. We can, but we get to choose. And I realized I had a choice as to whether I breastfed her. And that night I went back and I just gave her water from a sippy cup. And she was absolutely happy and fell asleep, just the same as she would if, I'd been breastfeeding her. And I went, oh my gosh, I have a choice. Okay. And so from that beginning tiny little root of choice, it kind of completely cracked this box that I'd been living in. And I went, oh, choice, 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 choice. It smashed it apart into pieces and began to take my choices. And I think that's what your purpose is. It's your choice. So when you get down to it, it's your choice to choose joy for you. And when you choose joy for you, you will automatically choose joy for everybody else in your life. And that's the people, that's the dogs, that's any other animals that are in that space. And it is actually that simple, because purpose is just what gives you purpose. It's what fulfills you. So it gets to be simple and it gets to be fun. And again, if you get yourself caught and you're like, oh, I don't know what the right thing, there's no right thing. What feels good for you? And that can move and flex and like flow like the waves, and it can shift and change, because as you step into that purpose, you can then find confidence and actually, wow, your purpose might be way up here. It could be right up in like the cosmos and you can't see it yet. You can't even comprehend it. And that's okay. Because all you got to do now is just step by step into a bit of joy, into what fulfills you now. And then whatever that bigger thing is, as and when it's the right moment for you to see it, to have the opportunity to do it, it will be there. And you will see it, you'll take the choice, and then you'll enjoy. Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much. I love that. Honestly, Liz, I just love that so much. Thank you for sharing that. And I really appreciate that you are also using one of my new favorite phrases, which is get to. Challenging the language where I'll say to myself, oh my gosh, I have to do this. I've got to do this. Da, 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 da. And that can feel overwhelming and impressive. And instead, reframing things of like, I get to do all of these things on my list. And I think you would appreciate this. I have changed my to-do list. I think we all have this, like the ongoing list, whether it's written, digital, in your head, doesn't matter. We've got the list of what we feel that we need to do. And I changed the name of it from to do to possibilities. And that felt really opening for me when I started to do that of these are all possibilities of what I can explore today, what I get to do. And even doing stuff like paying the bills, which would always give me anxiety and dread and like, oh gosh, I've got to do that. There was a reframe. It was like, I get to, and this is a possibility for me to do today, and I get to choose that. And how empowering is it when you're reinforcing the element of choice at all of those small levels, which is what you were pointing to of it's the small things. It really is. It's not about the big life-changing things. Those come a lot, those don't come as often. But when you think about how many opportunities of choice you have in a day, and the more you exercise that, it reinforces the fact that you have choice over and over and over. Mm.
Yes. Yes. And I think the other thing to extend and just like expand out that I get to pay my bills. I get to be grateful to choose to pay my bills. And then you add that like gratitude in as well. And it just expands it that a little bit more. because you have the choice. And I think for me, like the whole thing of choice that really kind of leveled down and rooted, like gave me really deep foundations, um, was when I read Viktor Frankl's Search for Meaning,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I
Mm-hmm.
hope I got it right. And it's about hope and choice. And like the one choice he had left was what he was thinking. And he chose for that to be hopeful. And I think it really gives like that massive power to choice when you take everything else away and that's all that is there, that is present for you. Like, that's amazing. And then to be grateful for the fact that you have that choice, just that one choice. I can choose how I'm feeling, I can choose what I dream of, I can choose my possibilities. That's massive. And
It
that
is.
completely shifts everything. The tiny things, you see them from the top, like that different perspective, they are tiny. And yes, they can feel heavy. And yes, it's okay for them to feel heavy. But then know that you can choose to shift your perspective and you can choose hope and you can choose to choose gratitude and you can choose to choose joy. That's amazing,
It
you know.
is. It is. I love that you use the Viktor Frankl example too, because he was writing that from the perspective of having been in a concentration camp.
Mhm.
So it wasn't coming from a sort of disassociated, elitist kind of perspective and experience. It was, I mean, a really rough experience because I know for myself, when I've been in situations that feel really heavy and dark, and someone has said to me, "Oh, but be grateful that you can do this." My immediate reaction was like, "I'm not grateful for like, it's like, but I think that the more that I've grown into this, it's even like, so if I can't pay my bills this month, recognizing that what I have a choice over is even about the story that I'm telling myself about that, the meaning I'm making about that, I can shift that. So it's even when you're in really difficult situations that it feels very hard to be grateful for them. One, recognize that there is a higher perspective to it, like you're alluding to, but also that where you have choice is the story you tell yourself about yourself, the meaning that you're assigning to that thing about yourself is where you have ultimate power.
Yes, yes. The stories that we tell each other and ourselves about why and how and what the purpose of everything is so powerful. Because when we say it, even if we're saying it silently to ourselves, we're hearing that story. The minute we shift that story into a different perspective, it helps to bring you back out of, whatever space that was in. And there's one thing when we've had, historically, we've had old bills that I didn't have, the capacity to pay in that moment. I would write on them when they arrived, paid in full with gratitude. And they weren't yet, but I could then see they will be. I know they will be. And just again, shifting it and going, okay, so this is where I am right now, but I know that it can change. I know that it can shift. And I don't know right now how it's going to shift, but I'm going to be grateful now for the fact it's shifted. And again, just doing that gives you that different lens to look through. So then rather than, oh my gosh, I'm stuck in this space, it's like, okay, I'm here. I can see up and out. There is something else beyond this moment. And then I can choose to come and look down and go, okay, when I'm out of this space, I'll be able to look down on myself in the space. So, what do I choose to look down at this situation now? And it's one of my little visualizations that I've kind of shifted it a bit because it's to imagine that you kind of walk out of whatever space you're in and then you can come back in as whatever creature you want to come in as. So you could choose any animal or, even a different person if you wanted, or like the sun or the moon, anything. I quite often would choose a butterfly or a little bird. So I'll imagine myself walking out of that space as me. And then I come back into that space as like a little bird or a butterfly because I can float above the whole thing then and I can look down. And I'm now looking down like emotionally neutral because I'm now a bird or a little butterfly. So I'm looking down at me, human Liz, and going, oh my gosh, okay. And then you can see that situation. And then you just expand the view. So you can see me there, but then you can move out and you can see like the whole community, or you can see the whole country. You can even come out, see the whole world, look down, see the whole cosmos, doesn't matter. But shift yourself comfortably until you can see it different, until you can see that, yes, that's the situation in that moment, but it will only be for a moment and things will shift. And you can reach out for support to help them shift. Like that's allowed. We're all allowed to get help. We're all allowed to reach out for support. There are so many people that are around and ready and often desperate to help us. And we forget when we put ourselves in those boxes, we forget that people actually want to help. Most people love to help, and most people will love to help you. And then you kind of come back down, float out, or walk out as whatever creature you are, and you're going to feel different because you've shifted yourself out of that moment. And it's just another perspective, like another way to choose to see things differently, to choose to have a choice again. And then also choose to use your voice to reach for that help, for that support that is always all around you.
I love that. I'm going to practice that exercise. That's just beautiful, and it touches on something with called shape shifting in some of the kind of earth-based spiritual practices that I like to engage in, where you are actually recognizing, so speaking to the oneness, right, where you are connecting to the butterfly that is within you, right? It's not trying to emulate something outside of you, but it's recognizing that that's already within you, and you're tapping into that part of yourself, that experience of yourself. But it also makes me think of I'd love to hear your thoughts on this about the relationship between calm and trust. Because I think the reason I'm framing it that way is that I know for a lot of my own spiritual path through this journey that I believed in the universe, I believed in energies, I believed in a higher power, all of that kind of stuff. And I still didn't fully trust that the universe was on my side. Right. And so I was still acting, it was like one foot in, one foot out kind of thing. And that made it feel difficult for me to do things like meditation. It made it difficult for me to be totally calm because I could get calm for a minute, but then go back into hypervigilance. But I have to make this happen. Right? Like I've got to take control. That's sort of a push and pull. And I wondered if you could reflect on that. What are your thoughts on that? And if people are experiencing something like that, what might be helpful for them to actually, again, I guess, sort of stay or be able to more easily return to calm in their own lives?
Amazing. Okay. So for me, being calm, being deeply calm, enables us to have the opportunity, the choice to trust. To trust that everything is okay can give you the opportunity to be calm. But most often, I think it begins with being calm. I think it begins with having even a second, even a millisecond of calmness in yourself. It's that pause.
Hmm.
It's that moment to actually just be. And meditation can be just 1 second, it can be one breath. Because for me, like meditation is that it can be silent, but it's that deep connection with yourself. And then as you choose to trust the universe, the energy, whatever you're choosing to trust in, that's that deeper meditation. But it all begins with you. And as you were kind of saying, everything for me is in me because for me, we're all connected. And if people are still in like a more practical space, like an easy way that I found to kind of understand how we're all so connected and, part of whatever's come before is if you just think about how much percentage of your body is water, because it's really high. And then notice, where has that water already been? where has it come from? How many different creatures and beings and different spaces of land and sky and sea has that water already flowed through before it got to me? And then you go, well, of course we're connected. Because that's the biggest cycle that, we're aware of. And we don't just have one lot of water and then that's it for life. We're constantly like topping up. And you couldn't scientifically prove where each tiny molecule came from. So that way, naturally, like organically, we're definitely all connected. And then if you, as you're moving through that kind of spiritual, that energetic, for me, like all the different energies, and I've studied so many different modalities, I've studied so many different belief systems. And for me, and what comes up like at my deepest value, passion, energy is love. It's like it's a love light energy. And you can call it whatever you choose to call it because that's okay. But for me, it's all the same energy. We've just repackaged it, we've rebranded it, and we've gone with what sort of suits us over different periods of time. And right now, we're in a space where there's so much choice, that can be overwhelming. So, again, I would just say, just go with what works for you in this moment. And again, that can shift and change. And I think as you kind of release those different like limitations and crack yourself out of that box, out of those compartments, and again, let yourself choose, you will connect to the energy how you choose to connect to it. And you can be calm and you can trust it at the perfect moment for you to be calm and to trust it. And it's okay. It can take 5 minutes, it can take 5 years, it can take, a lifetime, or for some, if you believe in different lifetimes, maybe it takes 5 lifetimes. But do you know what? That's okay because that's for you and that's your path and it's your choice each step of the way to choose your connection, your calmness, what you choose to trust. And I think the greatest gift is being able to be calm with yourself. And that can begin with, like I said, a second, a millisecond, because I understand when you haven't done it. And many of us were not taught how to do this at school. Mm-hmm. This is a new lesson. So be patient, have grace with yourself, but it can begin tiny. And from there, it can flow out. And then you build up momentum. And then it's like, whoosh. You're like, oh, okay. Actually, do you know what? I choose to spend my whole life in this state.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you for that. Liz, this has just been such a wonderful conversation. I feel like we could just talk for hours. If people want to work with you, what are some different ways that they can engage with you and where can they find you?
Okay. I try to be a little bit everywhere to support as many people to be calm as possible. So, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. Yeah, that's probably the main things. But then my own site as well, which is super simple, lizclifton.co.uk. And if all you put into Google is Liz Clifton, you will end up with me somewhere because I've, done my best to kind of spread about that calmness, as much as possible. So there's loads of like free resources if you're a little bit interested. But if you have a question, or you're looking for more support, then just reach out to me direct. So there's like contact form or messages and all those platforms, I think. So Perfect. Yeah, wherever you are, you'll find me.
Perfect. And I will leave links in the show notes too, so you can reach out directly to Liz from there. Liz, I have one last question that I ask all of my guests that I want to ask you. And we started off talking about dogs, and we're going to end this with talking about dogs too. And that is, if you want to reflect upon Zara or your other dogs or sort of dogs in general, what do you feel that dogs have taught you or are teaching you about what it means to be human?
To pause, to be in connection, to be true to yourself, to love yourself, and to know that you're always loved. Because there's this silent energy that flows into each and every one of those beautiful dogs. And it's flowing through you as well. And whatever dogs you connect with in your lifetime are there for a purpose. And they're telling you, I love you, you're safe, you're supported, you're loved exactly as you are. And it's my like privilege to be able to share that message back to them too. And you can do that too. Even if you've never done animal communication, anything like that, just feel that energy. Just send them that loving connection. You're safe, you're supported, you're loved exactly as you are now and always. Yeah.
I love that. Liz, thank you. This has just been such a gift. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's conversation with calm coach and mentor Liz Clifton. What was your biggest takeaway? I would love to hear. To connect with Liz and learn how you can add more calm into your life, visit her website, lizclifton.co.uk. I've left that in the show notes. Ready to deepen your connection with your dog through energy healing? Join our Fetch newsletter and receive our free Fetch Energy Healing Practices guide with a simple, transformative technique to help you deepen your bond and restore balance. Because when you nourish the energy between you and your dog, you both thrive together. I've left the link in the show notes. All right, until next time.